Hello everybody, my name is Duanil Starfire, and today we will be going over tanking in Mobius Final Fantasy. This guide will cover the basics, tank jobs, tank styles, the weapons you will be using, the cards you will be using, and a few matches to actually give you an idea of how to tank in Mobius Final Fantasy. Alright, let's get down to the basics of tanking in multiplayer. As a tank in multiplayer, your job is to defend your party and make sure that everyone stays alive after every big hit that goes out. You'll be doing this not only by driving your orbs for the party, but debuffing the actual boss. One of the big things I know most people have been asking for in multiplayer is actually to make sure that every tank has taunt. As of May 16th of this month, Global will be getting taunt ability cards in the item shop, so they will be available at that time. Now, as this video is currently being made, there are no taunt abilities currently in the ability shop unless you have gotten them from events prior or have pulled them, so make sure that on the 16th of May, if you do not have a taunt ability, in order to be a tank, you should get one of those taunt abilities. Moving on, one of the big major stats that you should actually be focused on is your HP gauge, on how much HP you actually have. Another one major stat that you want to actually make sure of is also your defense. Your defense should be high in order to actually make sure that you survive all the hits and you can actually take more single target damage than anyone else on your team. The only thing your team should be taking is the AoE damage when the boss releases it. Minor stats that you want to be involved with are attack and magic. Attack was mainly for, and magic is mainly for your attacker in order to break down his break gauge and then do damage to the boss. You don't really have to worry about break power because break power in itself is actually used for your breaker. Another thing you want to look at, and this is each time you change to different tank jobs, is your auto abilities. Under auto abilities, you will actually be able to scroll down and see what you are enhanced with, and the biggest thing is what you are resistant to. Not only will these resistances be increased, but they also will help when you actually drive your orbs. Your resistance on this Heretic Knight here is resistance to wind 30%, resistance to earth 20%, and resistance to dark 51%. So it would be more advantageous to use this Dark Knight against Anima when you actually can, because he has that resistance to dark by 51%. On top of that, the biggest thing about the tanks that you always want to remember is the area element drives. These grant element drives to all party members, so anytime you drive an orb, including a heal orb, you actually give that to your party members. So you drive orbs, you give them resistance. You drive a heal orb, and you heal for your support when your support is unable to heal at this time. Also, you have an increased HP pool by 50%, so that is always a great thing to have as a tank. More HP means you live more and you can support your team more. Now, I'm going to go over a little bit more about cards a little bit later in this one, but as for right now, the biggest thing you need to take away from the basics here is make sure that you grab debuffing cards and that you always grab that taunt card. Alright guys, we're back, and we're going to actually talk more about different tanks or the tank jobs in general. So first off, we have Warrior. Warrior has resistance to fire, water, and earth. It mainly only has a big resistance to fire damage, so a Warrior against Ifrit is probably your best idea. Not the best against everything, but is a really good against Ifrit in general. It doesn't really have high resistance against Shiva or Hashmal. However, it can do very different resistance there. They do, however, have higher attack and a decent high amount of defense. However, you want to still remain that he has a little lower of HP out of the tanks. The positives you can actually take away from the Warrior job is high attack and high parade. However, the negatives for it is low defense and low HP. For his auto abilities, he has a very high enhanced fire, so if you put fire damage on him, he's going to do a lot of fire damage, so he's good as far as that. However, he honestly still doesn't have many other things you can use for that. I would say on the average of best to worst, he's probably on the lower end side of being a tank. However, if you have the warrior job, I would not recommend just automatically outing him just because he's the only tank you have. Next, we're going to go to Paladin. Paladin is a fire, water, and light attributed tank. He has resistance to fire, water, and light, and is highly resistant to light. So using that against the light Sicarius will actually be very influential for you in taking down that one. Also against Ifrit and Shiva, you can actually use those very well. On other hand, he does have all this stuff, which is mainly coming from the weapon, which we will go over later. But as you can see, the fire, water, and light resist for there has a decent sized helpful, and with the weapon automatically has a nice little 10-star stack, so very high defense. As far as the Paladin goes, they have high HP, high defense, and they have great damage output. For the cards, however, honestly, they are going to be more of a breaking style. There really is not a lot of cards that would be used for debuffing. However, you're going to be more of an attack debuffer in order to assist your attacker and breaker in breaking and damaging the target. With Paladin, however, you have a stun lock combo is unavailable, and this style of tanking is very aggressive style of tanking. So you might want to stay away from it because you're actually using more orbs than you're actually gaining for the rest of your team. So make sure you look into that a little bit on that one. Going next is Knight. Knight is actually one of my favorite classes because it was one of the first tank classes I actually got. It also has a resistance to multiple different Sicariuses. It originally comes with fire, wind, and earth elements can you actually use and drive for your teammates. On top of those, you can use resistance to fire, resistance to water, resistance to wind, and resistance to earth, basically countering almost every Sicarius on the battlefield beside light and dark. On top of that, being able to drive orbs and actually do that is very well done. Going to the next tank will be Heretical Knight. Heretical Knight is actually a legendary job which you can get from drawing out of a greater 6 summon card. Honestly, not everybody has this. I was lucky when I got Heretical Knight. So, just to go over, as we had before, resistance to wind, resistance to earth, and resistance to dark. So it would be good to use against Anima Sicarius. This also, with Heretical Knight, as a positive, has high HP, high defense, and a stun lock capability. He has, however, low magic and low attack. Going on to the next one, which would be Scholar. Scholar has improved drives and heal drive as far as his auto abilities. So as you can see, heal drive is increased each time by percentage. Also on that, he has fire elements, water elements, and wind elements, so those would be good to use against. On top of that, he has a very high water resistance, so you can use him against Shiva very effectively and deal a lot of damage. Also, improving power drives improves the fire elemental drive and length and potency by 2, so increasing that makes it more effective against those types of mobs. By also increasing your heal drive, you also increase not only that, but your area elemental drive abilities, allowing you not only to heal yourself, but also heal your party members in that fact. The great thing about Scholar is they improve heal drives and increases and you can have an increased heal drive from that. However, a Scholar, on the other hand, as we can see right here, has low defense and low HP, so you'll need a good support to back him up. The last one that I will not be going over due to he is just out and I don't have much skill with him yet is the Monk. The Monk, actually, this is just a training monk. However, once able to get, he'll be able to level up to an actual tank in the ability there. I believe overall I believe it will be Earth, Light, and Dark, and then multiple other abilities for that. However, they will have more of a regen style of tanking than anything else. I believe they have a mid-level HP while having about a minimum defense enough for you to actually defend yourself against and actually drive orbs in order to actually get that ability. As you can see, not much stuff has been unlocked through my auto ability, but we'll be able to do that later on. One thing I do know with the Monk ability, they will be able to use warrior jobs warrior job cards in order to actually use those abilities. That goes over each of the different tanks as it is. I'm going to quickly scan over all their auto, which is their ultimates, in order to do this. First off, the warrior's ultimate will be a cone / arc attack, and gives you a brave as far as it goes up. Deals more attack than break power, so you're going to want to use this mainly when the enemy or boss is broken. The next one is Runic Saber. Honestly, this adds defense to you and gives you regen. Also, it's not as high as an attack as the warrior, however, has high break power and it's enhanced by plus 160. So honestly, it would be good to actually use this when the enemy is broken or about to be broken. Next, we have the Knight. Honestly, what this one does is kind of like what the Paladin does. However, you should mainly use it when he is broken, again, because the attack is hot and low break power. So, like I said, you're going to want to mainly use this after the enemy is broken to use Radiant Sword. It deals more damage in that cone attack in itself. And like I'll say this, you could actually use the Paladin's one also because it has a little bit more break damage to there, so maybe even breaking a target will actually help it there. Paratech Knight actually has high break damage as far as that and high attack. Because it is a legendary job, it has a high amount for this. So if you see a bunch of break gauges all in red, go ahead, do your ultimate. You'll probably break every single one of their guards and may even break the boss if the yellow bar is low enough. Moving on to Scholar. Last one, Scholar's not even on the attack and break power. However, when you scan the enemy, which is actually called, it analyzes them and lowers and gives them weaken, which lowers their resistance to their weakness. So if it's Shiva and their weakness is fire, you have to do more damage to fire. Also, on top of that, on giving them weakness, you do a prismatic shift, which turns all your orbs into prismatic orbs. So that makes it a lot easier for you to actually get the orbs that you need in order to actually use the Scholar effectively. As far as the Monk, and let me actually go to the Monk, not go that way. The ability you can see here, which is actually Fists of Fury, honestly is heavy attack, adds a lesser regen, and I'm not sure what the other ones are as you go up in the actual Monk job class, but we will be getting to that more when we go over different monks and different stuff like that. That's pretty much all the tanks. The next thing we'll actually be going to is the different tanking styles. There's two really main different tanking styles that I would like to go over. I call them a debuff tank and a stun lock tank. And I'll see you then. Alright everybody, we are back, and I'm going to go over this time the two styles of tanking. Now there are many different ways you can actually tank, but these are, I feel, are kind of basic styles of tanking. The first style of tanking I would like to go over is the debuffer tank. This puts multiple debuffs on all targets that you actually have, and gets rid of the yellow break gauge very quickly. What this also does is cause you to have good in helping out your DPS and in braking, because it gets rid of the break gauge pretty quickly for the yellow, and then your breaker can break it from there. However, the bad thing about this debuff tank is it does use a lot of orbs, and you can't use those orbs in your party drives that you need to be doing throughout the whole fight. And you kind of become useless a little bit, only dealing out damage a little bit when you are actually they are immune to the debuff. So by being a debuffer tank, you have to know that you're going to be taking down your target fast in order to actually do that. You have to know your abilities behind those to actually take them down. So this would be really good if you know what the people and your guys are okay with you being a debuff style of tank. Like I said, it's not the most popular in multiplayer. However, it can still be used very quickly for certain styles of Sicariuses and ones that you want to see later on. The second style is actually very most popular with most of the multiplayers. By using stun and slow, you actually create a lockdown in which you lock down the boss for multiple turns. This allows you to, one, auto-generate orbs for your teammates and drive very often to make sure that they have the defense needed for that. The positives on this is it locks down the target for multiple turns, you build orbs for your teammates, you drive when you're able, and you're able to keep everybody topped off and secure at that time. However, the drawback to this is you have low DPS. You cannot assist your teammates if you really need it, so you could be very drawn out in that sense. So both of these have positives and negative styles of tanking. Now your attacker and your breaker should be able to do their job. And with them doing that job, the best style right now is the stun lock tank, because there's there. Now, I will say for both of these tank classes, you need to have, as a tank, like I stated in the beginning, you need to have a taunt. A taunt. Now, Impulse, that was from Gladio, and I will go over that in a little bit, but you need to have some sort of taunt ability. On May 16th, the taunts will be available, and you need to be able to try to get them so that you can actually be a proper tank in any single way. I will only say this once again, taunt will be your best friend, no matter what style of tank that you are playing. Now, the next part of my video that I will actually be going over is the weapons, so I will see you guys then. Alright guys, and we are back. In this section, I'm actually going to be going over weaponry, and just to start off with, I'm going to actually go over my favorite weapons to the weapons that I consider to be, they're still good, but they're not the greatest use in multiplayer. I'm also going to, after that, I'm going to go over actual description of the weapons, what each weapon does, the positives and negatives of each, and then leave you with a final comment of what I actually believe are the exactly best weapons you can use as far as that. So first off, for the fighter, honestly, the Masamune X I believe is number 1 on my list. I got the Drag Von Deal coming in second, and the Blood Anchor in third. For the Scholar weapon, I'm definitely going to say that my personal favorite out of all of these is actually the Martial Scepter X for as number 1, and my number 2 weapon for that is the Astral one itself. And I'll go over that when I actually go over the actual weapon detail itself and the reasons why behind that. So first off, let's go ahead and start with my favorite weapon, the Masamune X. As far as positives for this one, it has life draw, Reunion, which anytime you use orbs, at any time you have a 20% chance just from base to actually increasing the chance of getting a prismatic orb on that reunion. That means anytime you drive, anytime you use an orb for an ability, anytime an orb could show up, you have a chance of getting that prismatic orb. It also has attunement chain, so if you do a dark spell and do a dark spell right behind it, you will get 34% extra damage on that second attunement chain. And that's what I actually believe is probably one of the best. As you can see, I've modified this multiple times in order to make my tank a lot tankier, dish out more damage with each ability, and be able to do more breaking power and more attacking power over in general. So this is probably one of my favorite, if not the best, in my opinion, weapon that you could actually have. Next is the Dragvon Deal X. Honestly, this is not a bad weapon. If you don't have the Masamune X, this would be a very close second to there, if not your first best weapon that you could have as a tank. It has HP that you can actually modify and gear up even more. You can actually, and automatically starts with 2 defense, 2 speed, and 2 chance, along with increasing HP up percentage, elemental third strike +2, so every time you auto attack the third time, you get 2 extra orbs, and prismatic draw, which starts at 15%, but every time you modify, you have a chance to increase that prismatic draw to one more percent. So you can get up to 16, 17, 18, 20%. So you have that chance of every auto attack actually proccing a prismatic orb. So this is actually a lot easier. The difference between the Dragvon Deal X and the Masamune X is the Masamune X, you're kind of being a little bit of a gambler when you actually play with it, because every time you use an orb, you're hoping to get back that one. This one, you always have the orbs available. It's just not always going to proc that prismatic orb though. So kind of, you have your gambler and you have your rock steady right here. And the last one that is for a fighter is the Blood Anchor X. I actually would say this is probably one of the best weapons you can use if you don't have the Masamune X in single player. As you can see, I have not modified this weapon at all, and it starts with 4 defense. That is very strong defense that you can actually have in single player. It also starts with some decent amount of speed and HP increase, so it makes it already a good tanking weapon. This actual weapon, though, it actually comes from the Heretical Knight by leveling it up to 8 stars. So you need to make sure you can actually have your Heretical Knight, number 1, through the Greater Summon, and after that, leveling it up all the way with the skill seeds and the crystals in order to get this Blood Anchor X. It would be a very good one if you don't have the Dragvon Deal or the Masamune in order to use it in multiplayer. But that's honestly, it's very good to use. The Ultimate Charger +2 allows you to charge your ultimate quicker. And the Kill and Draw, honestly, if you kill any enemies in single player, you automatically get 2 orbs for free. And upon modification of it, you can actually get Prismatic Draw. Now, it starts only at 1% when you first get that Prismatic Draw, so you gotta modify it multiple times in order to get it up to where it's really effective. So it's gonna take you a while to level up, but if you want to put a lot of effort into it, this will be really good in single player for you if you want to play a tank in single player. Moving on to the Scholar weapons, honestly, there's really only 2 that I will actually say are probably well, and those 2 are the Martial Scepter X and the Astral Wand X. As I'm going to go over the Martial Scepter X one, this one I actually have modified 8 times. This actually comes from the Red Mage tree. It's their final weapon. It's probably one of my favorites when I first started out, just because it's very strong at the beginning. You have high magic damage, so any ability that you can do a lot of damage from it. I raised it up about 500 HP to make it more like a tanking weapon. The attack and break power are a little bit low, but you actually don't have to use it as a mage. The good things about it that I like is the fact that it does now have +2 defense on it. On top of that, the Ultimate Charger for Scholar is to actually make all your orbs prismatic. So, Ultimate Charger +3, meaning every time the turn comes through, I get a +3% on my ultimate. It goes up. The good thing about this in actual multiplayer is the enhanced heal drive percentage that it has on it. Whenever I use the heal drive, I actually increase my healing by plus 5%. So whatever it is, it increases that extra 5% on it, and it heals them up even further. So if a big hit happens, the healer is not able to heal during this turn, I can max them out just by using my ultimate, heal driving, max, and they are full health completely from there. Lastly, exploit weakness would automatically be really good in one case, as I could actually say, using a fire spell against Shiva. This would automatically probably knock out the yellow bar completely, or would actually do heavy damage, even though you're a tank, to Shiva to knock her down using that fire spell, because of the exploit weakness and the plus 53% that it actually does to it. The other weapon that if you do not have Red Mage leveled up, or Red Mage in general, would be the Astral Wand. This Astral Wand can actually be very effective. It has the same thing as the Dragbound Deal X as far as HP up, Third Elemental Strike, and Prismatic Draw, and pretty much everything that went over beforehand. As you can see, this only has 2. I modified this once and got an extra defense, so it's good, even better for my my Scholar at this time. So it just gets even better and better. Honestly, as I said before, these are mainly the wands and weapons that you actually want to use as far as that. I have seen, however, a few people use the Buster Sword on their tank as far as that goes. However, it is not always the best. You do get that elemental third strike plus 3 and improved criticals, but you're not trying to be a tank. You're trying to do more damage in that sense. Yes, it does have 3 defense, which is great to start off with, but honestly, like I'm going to say again, the Masamune X will be better bang for your buck than the actual Buster Sword itself. Of the other swords that I've actually checked out, none of them actually compare to the Masamune X and the Dragbound Deal X. I would actually mainly stay with these two in global for as long as you guys possibly can, because as of right now, those are the 2 strong ones. For single player, I would recommend either the Masamune X or the Blood Anchor. You could also do the Dragbound Deal X, but the Blood Anchor does have a little bit more defense and will charge your ultimate faster. Plus, you got that kill and draw, which will give you some more orbs over time. Maybe not the orbs that you want at the time, but hey, it's actually good starting out. It would be good to modify at that time. And last but not least, the Scholar weapons of the Martial Scepter X, if you have Red Mage max and leveled, if you want to actually get some extra stuff on that, and the Astral Wand X. The next section I'll actually be going over is cards. Now, there's a lot of cards that could be used in here, but I'm going to go over a few that I think are pertinent to have for the tanking class. And until then, I will see you. Alright everybody, we are back. This will actually be the last section of this guide, pre the actual demonstration of how to tank in Mobius Final Fantasy. This section will be going over cards that you should have. Now, everybody has their own style of cards, and I have gone over the 2 tank styles that actually people use in here. However, we're mainly going to go over cards that are in the ability shop that you can use. I'm also going to go over a few cards that you can actually get from the actual events that were gone from the events prior. However, not everyone's going to have these cards, so just be aware of this. Make sure the biggest thing is on May 16th, if you don't already have a taunt card, make sure you get that taunt card so you can actually be a tank in Mobius Final Fantasy. Now, start off, I'm going to go over some of the debuffing cards, just to go through it and make it kind of easy. So first, we're going to talk about Nekomata. Nekomata is a stun. Now, I know I probably haven't maxed out all of its extra abilities or any of these cards' extra abilities, but at this time, I'm slowly leveling it up, slowly getting all of the extra cards that are needed and whatnot. Nekomata is a stun card. What it does is prevent the target from attacking for several turns. Now, this is actually good if you're doing a combination with other debuffing skills that I'm actually going to go over next. With Nekomata, you actually can do the Yasha card, which is actually a slow. If you combine Nekomata and Yasha, you actually have your stun lock combo right there, which allows you to actually lock down your target for a multitude of turns. Now, it does have a cooldown on it for a certain amount. So as you can see, the Yasha's cooldown is 4, Nekomata is 4, so I gotta wait 4 turns before I can use it again. However, the boss is actually completely immobile at this time and will not be able to move, so you can actually use it very effectively and make sure that it can be locked down. This only combination doesn't work against 2 bosses. The 2 bosses that it doesn't work against is Odin and Hashmal because they have resistance. Odin to stun and Hashmal to slow. Now, moving on to the next card that I'll bring up here, which, if I can actually locate it correctly, let's see, Earth, do I have it? No, let's pull it up in the shop. Probably can pull these up in the shop. It would actually be Zodiark, which is actually a weakened ability. And from this weakened ability, Zodiark, it actually lowers the target's opposing elemental resistance for several turns. So using this for, like, let's say a mage on your team, they can do massive damage with their ability if you lower down their magic resistance to that opposing resistance. The next one that actually should be showing up is Fiora. Fiora is actually in here if you actually want to get it. Unguard is very good. It nullifies target defense for several turns. So, like, if you couldn't use Nakamata, you might want to use Unguard to lower down the target's defense and give your tanks, or not just your tank, but all your other guys, the ability to do more damage to the boss than stunning it. So for Odin, this might actually be good. Another one that's actually pretty good that I'll actually go back here to here is actually Galalobos. Galalobos actually does Curse, which lowers down target's magic resistance for several turns. So if he's about to do his ultimate, you put this on him, anyone except for Anima will actually have their ultimate lowered so they don't do as much damage as they could actually do at that time. So this is a really good one if your opponent is about to actually hit you with a big attack. From there, we actually have one that was actually in the fire chain. In the fire chain, most of these are all wind and earth cards. However, in the fire chain, for support, you do have Hectaton Share, which actually lowers target defense for several turns. It's a little bit unlike Unguard, where it actually negates the defense, but this actually lowers his defense down for several turns, and it's good for somebody that has fire in their things, such as Scholar or Knight. This will actually make it so that it's easier to actually knock down the break gauge or knock down the actual boss's health in itself. One that I believe that's a little bit less effective, that I honestly don't use as much or don't see many people use, is actually Lilith, which is actually bio. It poisons the target for several turns. Now, Black Mage's ultimate actually poisons the target anyway and deals considerable amount of damage. However, there's other things that you could take besides Lilith that would actually deal more damage and actually be more bang for your buck than just using this card here. Now, like I said before, on the 16th of May, you'll want to get tank cards that are available. And as you can see, for the Final Fantasy Record Keeper, they did come out with multiple of these cards in order for you to actually have the taunt card. However, not everybody got these Final Fantasy cards for there, and are still waiting for them. The ones that were available from events in the past, that hopefully, if you guys have been around and have seen them for a while, you probably have them available. One of them is Gladio. Gladio actually does a combination. He does taunt and magic down. So he does curse and taunt at the same time. So that's actually a really good card to have. Another one that I'm gonna actually pull up really quick here, and this is under the Mage Tree, is actually Y'shtola. Y'shtola is a single target fire attack. This adds Deep Rave, which lowers your target's attack, and Deep Barrier, which lowers his defense. So basically, it completely lowers down everything that that person will actually do to you. Next on there, like I went over, all the record keeper Final Fantasy ones will always be on this list as far as healer goes, and you'll always see one of the two as far as that. So those will always be a taunt. They have one of each color of fire, water, wind, and earth. They do not have light and dark. So those ones you'll have to find, or just use one of those other 4 elements, and you're sure to have a taunt at that time. The next one I'm actually going to bring up in this would actually be water, which is actually Biggs. Biggs is your other one that you want to use. I would actually recommend for use on your Scholar. What it does is add slow and debrave. What you can do with this is, because Scholar is fire, water, wind, you can actually do your stun lock combo with Biggs actually being on your team. He adds the slow, you do the stun with Nakamata, and it also does debrave, which lowers its attack once it comes out. So you automatically have a double hit right there and prevents him from moving. So that's actually a really good one to have as far as that. The only one of these that is kind of like an attack card, but I kind of like it only because it does put up a debuff, is actually Buried from Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy. Now this one does a light attack. This one does a light attack and it's really, really good. However, it also adds On Guard, which nullifies the defense on the actual targets for the area there. Another one that I would like to mention, along with the light spell, if I can, which is actually on a mage, would actually be Jesse. This adds slow to your target, so you actually can slow down. However, there's no there's no tank right now that actually has a light ability. Now, the good thing is, coming in the future, there will be jobs that might even have this for a tank. So this might actually be good in the future. But for right now, you'll only see this probably on a devout, if you see it at all, which mostly, if you are healing, you're only going to take support cards. And that's pretty much all I can think of about for right now as far as cards go. I know there are many other cards that probably you guys could think of as far as going through the whole team and everything like that, but these are the ones that I think are the most pertinent to being a tank. Now, honestly, there are millions of cards, such as ones that do crit resistance down, ones that do break defense down, ones that completely do other abilities that lower down abilities, and those are all good. I can't list them all in this video, but like the ones I did list, those are the ones that you want to look out for if you're trying to be a tank first and foremost. As far as that goes, I'm gonna then now close this out and actually start up some of the multiplayer games and actually show different ways of actual tanking when I'm actually going through the actual tanking of the abilities. And from there, we'll go into more stuff a little bit later on. But for now, we're going to have 3 different tanks. I'm going to try to use 3 different styles. One with a stun tank, one with a breaking tank, and one with a scholar. And I will see you guys after this.
想通り。これであなたの命を粗末にした。 敗することもあるって。俺の剣が闇を照らす。
Follow my lead. Ready? Target the boss.
ありのままの光だ。見せてよ。遅いぞ。
Hey everybody, I just wanted to say thank you very much for watching my video on how to tank in Mobius Final Fantasy. Honestly, it took me a little bit longer than I expected in order to complete this, but I definitely wanted to get this information out to the community. Like I said at the beginning of the video, this is just the basics for tanking. There are many different other styles of tanking, many different other cards, many different other weapons that people choose to use in order for this. This is just gives a good general basis of how to actually start tanking as a tank in Mobius Final Fantasy. I want to actually say thank you to everybody that actually posted on my video before this, how to be a breaker in Mobius Final Fantasy. And I will actually say I was pretty intrigued by the comments. All y'all weren't trying to diss me or troll me or anything like that. You actually were providing information that I did not have at the time. So y'all actually provided the community with more information that was needed, and that basically everybody needed to actually see and hear. So the best thing about that is I'm glad to see that you're not just blowing someone off, not just writing them off. You basically are taking something and, you know what, going to make it better for the community. And that's what I love about this community in general, is the fact that the community is very welcoming, starting to get more and more people in, and basically making it part of that, so we can actually take those new players and make them even better, and then we have a better overall gaming experience here in Mobius Final Fantasy. I will actually be continuing to make guides. My next guide that I will be making is support guides for support in Mobius Final Fantasy. Honestly, it's going to be a little bit, I guess, one-sided in a way, only because of the fact not all support cards that we all have are readily available. There have ones been with the Record Keeper ones. There is also ones with the Final Fantasy 15 event that came out, and multiple other ones. However, I will try to make a guide that can show, hey, if you're just new off the thing and you want to buy a whole support deck and everything like that, what you can get from the ability shop at that time, and from there actually make a decent deck in order to actually be a support in multiplayer, should you actually have that job. Honestly, y'all, if you want to continue watching all my shenanigans, not only just in Mobius Final Fantasy, but Final Fantasy 14, you can check them out here on YouTube. I post a lot of different highlights for all my stuff I do in Final Fantasy 14 and Mobius Final Fantasy, so it's really a good thing to actually check out. The other thing that I actually will be doing, and I have been doing for the past few weeks, is I actually stream live Mobius Final Fantasy over on Twitch. And every Monday night, I actually do a stream called Mobius Mondays. Some of you watching this video have already been there. Other of you have checked it and left, and some haven't even seen it at all. But it's where we actually all come together as a community, talk about different things that are actually happening in global, not just in Japan, but in global, and then also try to better everyone's knowledge, because there is stuff even veterans don't know, that they want to try out a new class, but they don't know how to go about it. Well, we have veteran breakers over here that know exactly what they're talking about and can get you the information that you need if you've always been maining a tank. And stuff like that. It's a good place, good music, it's a good atmosphere, and that's just what I've been trying to instill when I do Mobius Mondays on Monday night on Twitch. So definitely check out my Twitch right over here, and you'll actually see that. If ever you guys want to actually follow along when I'm offline or anything like that, I do a bunch of different things to include Mobius Final Fantasy, Final Fantasy 14, and I actually delve in a little bit of cosplay every now and then for most of the cons. You can check them out on my Instagram and Twitter, and on my Discord also. I actually keep stuff up there, or I read them actually during my streams, which I do for Mobius Final Fantasy, and you guys would like that. The Discord and the actual Twitch place is called the Lala Nation, mainly because I'm a Lala in Final Fantasy 14. Lastly, I would just like to say thank you to everybody, and honestly, you guys are the ones that create this community. You guys are the ones that make it well, And you know what? Honestly, I am just happy to keep on making videos for you all and making stuff, because I find this to be a great hobby, a great passion, and I will continue to do it. But until next time, guys, I'll be saying bye. Both me and Mog. We'll see you later. Goodbye.